Welcome back to Nutrition World Podcast. So freaking exciting. I just finished a training with a true passionate person, and I have to say I love passion in the field of health and nutrition. Welcome, Jme from WholeSun Wellness to Nutrition World Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I just thought, and I only speak as I think. I don't really prepare for these kind of interviews. But when you look back on people like Rembrandt and Beethoven and during the Renaissance, a lot of amazing magic was created. Why? It's because people had such a deep passion for one specific thing in their life. This lady right here has a passion for medicinal mushrooms. And I can tell you, I've done 3 podcasts on mushrooms. I have recommended mushrooms more in the past 6 years than I did the previous 35, 40 years of my practice here. And I will never stop recommending them. They are empowering people's health to a level that really and truly, I don't think any other category of nutritional supplementation or lifestyle empowerment can probably equal that of mushrooms. And the more I learn about mushrooms, the more I'm intrigued and also mystified to nature's power. And you have done something that is so transparent and so ethical that it gives me amazing confidence in your product to a point that it's going to be tough for competitors, actually, because I'm going to be taking your product, the way that you explain it and the way you travel the world. So first off, for people that are unfamiliar with mushrooms, before we talk about your specific ones and why they are different, what are the main reasons why people might want to consider these?
Well, mushrooms definitely are a superfood, right? They're therapeutic. Nutrition is number one. We need to eat. We need to drink water and breathe. So in a lot of cases, I feel like the nutritional value of our food has went down. And so you're not getting everything you need, vitamins and minerals, where medicinal mushrooms continue to give you those vitamins and minerals and these active compounds in the mushrooms that absorb into your cells in your body to keep you healthy. It's a great preventative, like an overall daily nutritional boost. It also helps with chronic illness and there's a whole list of things that mushrooms do. But at the end of the day, food is the most important thing besides, again, water and breathing. And if you cannot get all the high nutrient values and these therapeutic benefits from what you're already eating, consuming mushrooms, and then being so genetically close to us, our DNA itself, it really breaks down and keeps us thriving, right? Good vibration, preventative is there's so many people out there that care about their health and that are very healthy already, but you still need to put things in your body that's going to thrive and keep that vibration going.
And when you look at the resilience of mushrooms just on their own on Earth, you actually see that they have almost a bulletproof vest themselves. I mean, they can grow in places that probably nothing else can. They can convert terrible chemicals into actually nutrients. And when we talk about nutrition of mushrooms, yes, we know vitamins and minerals, but like you said, there's additional compounds. Many of these compounds help us to stay well and get well. And I want people to always know that we need to empower ourselves. We don't need to be victims, and we can't look into traditional models to actually help us along this path. We have to reach out for this information. I use mushrooms off and on. I use them for specific reasons, to try to get over if I'm under the weather or I'm wanting to work out harder or maybe have more white blood cells or do whatever. And it's all about the end result of quality, potency, purity, and I've never heard of anyone who has gone to more of the level to ensure this than you have. And I just was blown away by it. So tell people how yours is different in regard, and there's many good companies. We're not going to put down any companies, but I've never seen anything like yours.
So mushrooms are not all created equal. That's my theory. When you use a mushroom product, especially, I'll go over a little bit about mine. When you're wanting to keep yourself healthy, right? You want to put something good in your body that's going to be effective. When we talk about other active compounds between the vitamins and minerals, Well, if the mushrooms are not grown right, if they're not processed right, they're not broken down, you don't get those additional therapeutic compounds that you're seeing in all these studies or in all these advertisements. You have to process mushrooms correctly. So I always say it starts from the growing process. Mushrooms need to be grown in their natural substrates, which is hardwoods. They feed off the wood that gives them those extra compounds, natural occurring compounds, and vitamins. So we have to grow the mushrooms to be therapeutic in the very first. Just like when you grow your garden, you're not going to grow it on some unnatural substrate. It's going to be in soil where it gets its nutrients. So our mushrooms are all grown the way they're supposed to be grown, and then mushrooms are long growers, right? They don't grow fast. They're not going to expand overnight. It can take 12 months, 4 months, just depending on the species. We make sure all of our mushrooms grow out to their full potency, and then we harvest the mushrooms. At that point, we put the mushrooms out in the sun, as I've mentioned before, for the vitamin D. So all mushrooms have vitamin D, high amounts of vitamin D. But in order to get the vitamin D, you have to have the UV. You've got to have the sun to extract the chemical compound in a mushroom to convert it to vitamin D. So we make sure we're doing that as a company. So then that way, when you're using the mushroom products, like say shiitake, you're getting high amounts of vitamin D and it's bioavailable. Then we go to extraction. Extraction is super important. If I just took a dried mushroom and grind it up and gave it to you, you're really not going to get a benefit. You're not going to be able to break down the chitin, the fibrous wall. It's not bioavailable. So we have to extract these mushrooms on top of everything and using the right genetics as well to break them down to make them bioavailable. So then that way you're getting all those other amazing active compounds that you wouldn't get from just it being dried. You got to break that down. So our mushrooms, when they're finally done and processed, you're getting a very potent product that has been extracted. We're not taking anything out of the mushroom. We're just breaking it down to be bioavailable and to release those compounds. So but it all starts from the growing.
So you're saying if I find lion's mane growing and I eat it that night at dinner, would I get some benefit from that?
You would, but you're not going to get high therapeutic levels, right? So I'm a big advocate. Eat mushrooms. Mushrooms are amazing. Just make sure you cook them, and then put your...
Why is that?
Because there are spores and other toxic things that can make you sick. So a lot of times when people will tell me, oh, I'm allergic to mushrooms, I'm like, well, how do you know? And they're like, well, I've had some culinary mushrooms and they didn't set right. And it's usually raw. It's because we need to cook it down, right? For bacteria, everything as well. But we also, the spores can get into your system. There's just reasons. Yeah. Okay. So the old 1970s, like the salads with mushrooms, don't do that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you always want to cook your mushrooms. But if you're buying culinary mushrooms, say you find some lion's mane, I would still recommend you put it somewhere to get the UV from the sun. Then you'd cook it. And yes, you are going to get some vitamins and nutrients and you are going to get some benefits. But if you're wanting lion's mane, say for the nerve growth factor for neuropathy, you're not going to get that from just eating the culinary. You would have to eat a lot and you still would never achieve the amount that if you did an extraction.
And what is that you're holding?
This is Reishi. So this is from our farm.
Okay.
It is actually a baby one. It's seen better days. This travels with me a lot, so a lot of it's kind of been beat up. But yeah, for example, when I'm talking about growing, our reishi can take almost 12 months to fully grow. It is one of the slowest growing mushrooms. Like where lion's mane could be 4 to 6 months.
And what benefit is reishi mushroom?
Reishi is the calming mushroom, right? It's the only mushroom that you can take that actually promotes sleep. It is number one in a study they did on PubMed with a whole bunch of other things, natural like melatonin to herbs to tart cherry. This product, this reishi came up number one for insomnia. Wow. So it's truly the calming mushroom. It is also great for your immune system. It's great for if you have allergies. I'm not from the South, and since I've been here, I have allergies.
Really?
Yeah. It's been awful.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to be taking reishi. But it's great for allergies. It's really good for women through menopause, hormonal, anything like that. It's a great liver detoxifier. So a lot of times we find that when people sleep at night and they're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, a lot of times it's your liver.
It is.
And people don't realize that. So that's also a great thing when you take reishi at night before you go to bed. You take it like maybe 30 minutes before you go to bed. It's going to start relaxing your body to help balance cortisol, all of that, so you can sleep better. But while you're sleeping, it's also detoxifying and cleansing your liver. So then we're finding that when people use it, they're not waking up in the middle of the night. So overall, like, reishi is an awesome mushroom. Awesome. It definitely is. I cater it more with women's health. Just like cordyceps. Cordyceps is the man's mushroom. It really is. There's a lot of men that come in looking for stuff for testosterone, libido, energy, endurance, cardiovascular, list goes on, metabolism, chronic muscle fatigue after working out. And cordyceps is number one for men.
I did it this morning because I was going to do the rowing machine, and I'm trying to work on VO2 max. So trying to push myself breathing-wise, it truly makes a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Again, you spoke earlier before this about, and I know all too well, the mushroom industry is a little bit like the CBD industry. At first, a lot, several good companies came out with it, but then it becomes diluted, and then it becomes profit only, and corners are cut, and then all of a sudden it's selling at gas stations and everywhere. You have no clue what you are getting. I so adore the transparency that your company offers. Just kind of tell people, how many countries have you been to in the past few months? Because you work with farmers in many different countries.
Yeah, so when I started my company, like I mentioned during our training, that I had to build out my own supply chain. There was not medicinal mushrooms like this grown in the U.S. So we have a total of 8 countries that we work with overseas. Now, in the last few months, I've been more here in the U.S., but I am going to Vietnam in May and then Thailand.
Wow.
We might be bringing on a new farm in Vietnam. I go and vet them. I don't just take on a farmer and their family. I go and spend time to see if it's a good fit. If it's a good fit, then we partner with them. They grow. They have to grow all of the genetics the same. So the genetics that we would use for shiitake in Japan is going to be the same that we're using in Florida. Wow. We keep everything very consistent. And so, yes, I'm always trying to expand what I call a dual immersion overseas. But then we also have our U.S. operation, which has taken a very long time. Over the last 6 years to bring it back to the U.S. has not been easy. It's expensive here to produce. A lot of people ask me, why is it so expensive? Well, in these other countries, they've been doing it for generations. They have it dialed in. They know their costs. They know how to produce these mushrooms, where in the U.S., it's a little different. But when you're talking about the saturation, I just wanted to bring that up, is everybody now is becoming a mushroom farmer or a mushroom company. We're seeing it quite a bit. Here in the U.S., we partner with a lot of local farmers. We're actually in discussions with a farmers, co-op here in Tennessee, which we're excited about. But, to me, having these relationships, it helps with the whole wheelhouse, right? The traceability, the transparency. When we have to do audits and inspections every year and be able to trace back a lot number to the farm that it was grown, even if it's in Scotland or Holland or, say, Thailand, we have got to show this traceability, or we don't get our USDA certificate. We don't even get certified. So I feel in this evolution of mushrooms, and everybody, it's like number 2 on spins. Like, everyone's doing the mushroom thing now. We need to have more standards, transparency on labels, and accuracy and that integrity. So it doesn't matter if you have competition. A customer should be able to go into a health food store or where they're going to buy their products and look at the wall of mushrooms that are about to happen and be able to pick any product and know that they're getting a good product, or at least it's transparent on the label to understand what they are buying.
I stay in beside you on the vetting, because as best as we can, we can't visit the farms. We actually visit our farmers' farms that are local because we have wonderful foods during the growing season from a local farmer, our beekeepers, you know, all the local peoples we look at. But you travel the world to do this, and I just am blown away, because I don't know of many industries, especially the pharmaceutical industry, that would care less about that. They want to know the science, they want to know the black and whites, they want to know the certificate of analysis. But to go to the level that you have, which is necessary in the world of the natural world. Let me ask you this real quick. Do animals that are just out in the wild, do they eat mushrooms when they see them? Okay. You know, there's some kind of a little bit of a following that's saying that vitamin D is unhealthy. And I always go back to ancient wisdom. If I look at nature, I rarely see where a mistake was made. So if these mushrooms growing on trees and were UV exposed, they're going to have a lot of vitamin D to them for sure. So if the animals are eating them, I really feel that the instinctive wisdom is within all of us. We've just lost it because we're not in nature anymore. How about turkey tail before we finish up here? What is it good for?
Oh, gosh, turkey tail is good for a lot of stuff. It definitely is a really strong immune booster, so that's a good one to take during cold season, especially if you work in the customer service, you're dealing with people, and say you don't do the flu shot. Turkey tail is a good one to take. There is a lot of research with turkey tail and breast cancer, which is crazy. In 2014, the FDA approved clinical trials with turkey tail. So there is that aspect of it too, which you can find on PubMed. Another thing that's really good with turkey tail, besides the immune support, they just did this amazing clinical on it, showing that it's better taking turkey tail than a probiotic. You know,
Really?
so like a dairy, all that. Yeah, it really is great for your gut and digestion, right? So I always tell people, turkey tail does not get a lot of attention unless it's outside of the breast cancer, because it got so blown up with breast cancer over the years. And there's clinicals that they've talked about it. But there's like all these mushrooms, they do some really amazing things. And here in the US, we focus on, you know, the 5 top mushrooms, but not so much like maitake, shiitake, turkey tail. And I always tell somebody, if you are trying to find something that's natural, that's going to help your immune system, your metabolism, your gut, and you don't want to go do all these shots and everything, turkey tail is the one to do.
Got you. Now, I know you work with some medical clinics, don't you?
Yes, we have 46 medical clinics that we work. Yes.
And when you say work with, what does that mean?
So a lot of the doctors we work with, they prescribe our mushrooms to their patients. So when I started my company in 2017, I went into more clinics before I even went into health food stores, which was really odd, because at the time, a lot of these clinics were like, oh, yeah, we're not recommending what they call complementary medicine. I feel like this is food. It's medicine, right? But over the last 8 years, we have clinicals with oncologists. We work with a lot of cancer clinics. We work with psychiatrists, GI doctors, family medicine, drug addiction clinics for rehab. So when somebody is going through, you know, rehabilitation from drugs or alcohol, they're using some of our products to reboot basically their brain.
Which mushrooms kind of would focus on that?
The lion's mane is a good one. Tremella, shiitake, the deep brain product we offer, which has all of them. But yeah, if somebody was just looking for an overall mushroom to help with addiction, lion's mane would be a really good one, because also the receptor aspect and the nerve growth, you know, because there's a lot of damage that happens. But yeah, so I mean, I feel like a lot of the products out there, going back to turkey tail and stuff, if you're going for a product that you're looking online for Google or whatever for answers for medicinal mushrooms, I always recommend going and talking to a wellness person. Really dive in. If you're going to dive in, be more scientific and go to PubMed. With the clinics we work with, they are they're not naturopathics. These are just regular PhDs, right? And so I think out of the last 8 years, I've worked with 2 naturopathics. Everyone else is an oncologist. And it's like I was mentioning to you, our deep immune product, which is a multivitamin of mushrooms, got sponsored by the largest cancer clinic in my hometown, and they put it on billboards because of just what they have seen through their own clinicals. So it's been nice to see over the years that doctors are like, okay, this is good. So when we work with them, they basically just send customers to get our products. There are some clinics that keep it in-house. We do a lot of donations too. If somebody can't afford the product when they're going through cancer treatment, we will donate it as well. And then we send them to stores too.
I mean, in business, everything comes from the top down. Your ethics from the top down mean that your whole company will be infiltrated with great ethics and transparency. And I think I have rarely heard a story quite as deeply committed as you, but we're in a wonderful industry who have such amount of caring businesses and enterprises. And there's some that aren't, but they wouldn't be found in nutrition world. You trained our staff on the use and advising of these mushrooms, and that's what we want to do, is to become and stay the expert in the community. And again, not treating medical conditions, but empowering people, building their toolbox of options. And building this toolbox needs to be done before you have a crisis.
Yes.
You can't wake up on Saturday night at 6:30 and wonder what mushroom I should take. Now,
No.
I'm going to start using your immune formula, which is called
the Deep Immune.
Deep Immune.
Yes.
I've been fortunate lately to not have any of the bugs going around, but I love the fact using small amounts, and then if I feel under the weather, I'll use larger amounts. And I will be doing it in powders in my protein, but you do make capsules also. And I love the fact that you do so much in-house testing and outside of testing that shows the stability of your product up to 4 years, you said, which is beyond belief because most nutrients can't last that long.
Yeah.
But obviously mushrooms have the capacity to maintain that stability.
They're amazing.
They're heroes. There's no doubt as far as the plant kingdom. I had no idea 15 years ago of the depth of power that a mushroom could have if properly grown and properly harvested and properly produced. And there are some good companies out there, but you are going to be the premier one at this point. So any last words for people on the mushrooms?
I just would really suggest people dive into the education, learn about mushrooms. It doesn't matter if you're super healthy or if you're going through some kind of illness. They're going to help no matter what, Is
there anybody who can't take them?
Okay, so everyone can take mushrooms, but there are some confliction, like reishi, for example. If someone is on a blood thinner, they would not be able to take reishi.
Other mushrooms are fine?
Everything else is fine.
Interesting.
But reishi alone, it naturally thins the blood, so there could be major consequence, right? So, but besides that, they're healthy. I mean, it's just a food. It's a superfood. And I would suggest too, if somebody has been allergic to mushrooms, you need to think, well, was it a culinary mushroom you ate? And how was that grown? Was it grown on some subpar soil with chemicals where the mushrooms do absorb this stuff? So you're going to bring it into your system too. That's why it's so important to cook them and get rid of any toxins and stuff. So yeah, I would just educate and go to a store, like yours, and talk to the staff. If you have questions, if you don't know what to take, try a blend or just go for, the safe bet lion's mane. Everybody can use lion's mane. It's a brain mushroom, right? So that's all I would say.
Well, great ending. And everyone was thrilled with you, and we'll be thrilled down the road to probably have another training, another podcast to further dive into this magical world of the benefits and empowering and putting things in your toolbox.
Yes, exactly.
So wonderful time spent with you, and thank you. And because you traveled from Utah to be here, and that means a tremendous amount. And we will be joining you again, hopefully soon. And maybe you can come on my radio show, Vital Health Radio, which is I've been doing for 6 years, and we interview plenty of people like yourself. So triple thank you, and I'm looking forward to getting myself on your product.
Okay, thank you.
All right.